So, now, hello, Jessica. Nice to see you.
All right, let me mute this tab.
Okay, yeah. We have
So,
echo.
I didn't have echo, but I heard it twice and
Yeah,
on a short delay. So now I think
yeah. And
we're
I
good.
heard myself over your thing that was confusing with a bit of delay. But now it should
Yeah,
be better. Okay, so, yeah, everyone, that's. Why does it tell me ads are starting soon? I started my ads 2 minutes ago. Oh, we might have an ad break right before because Twitch forces ads on me and doesn't do what I tell it to do. But yeah,
uh,
yeah. Why don't you introduce yourself to everyone? They don't know you yet.
sure. So, first of all, if I'm looking the other direction, that's because that's my second monitor. So, I am just checking to
Yeah.
see everything that's
If I
going
look back
on.
and
But
forth,
my name,
this way I look at the monitor where you are on Discord, and this is my stream software and where my camera is. So yeah,
yeah, it takes a lot of tech to get this all to work.
true.
So my name is Jessica A's, and I am the designer and everything else behind Double the Stitches. And I was so excited. We are both participating. It's Yvonne, right?
Yeah,
Is that? Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
Yvonne.
Just making sure that I have it right. So we are both participating in the Fasten Off Yarn Along, and um, she was sweet enough to, offer up to have guests on her Twitch stream. So here I am. I have help from my husband and my kids showing me how this all works because this specific platform, is kind of new to me. So I'm excited to get to know you all and share a little bit about what I'm about and answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah. So if there's anyone who wants to ask anything in between, you know how it goes. Just put your questions in chat, and when I can, either Jessica will see them and answer them, or I will read them out to her, point out there was a question, and then we'll get to that. But otherwise, I mean, it's not the first talk we have on here. Otherwise, we have a few things prepared to talk about, and then we'll see where the conversation takes us.
That sounds wonderful. I'm going to see if I can move this back to my other monitor so I don't keep looking sideways. Let's see if I can get that to work into different screens. Okay, I think that's better. Now I can just look at you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm excited to participate in the Yarn Along. I missed the cutoff last year, but I participated the year before. And it's a lot of fun to get to know other knitters, other crafters. And I don't know if we have any guests from my Facebook group joining us. I mentioned it to them this morning that I was doing something a little bit different, and so I think they're able to watch without having an account, but if they wanted to chat, they would need an account. Is
Yeah,
that
exactly. That's
what
how
works?
Twitch works because it always shows your account name in the chat, and also like to prevent bots and things, you can say I don't want to have people chatting or following me or something that have accounts that are newer than or stuff like this. So that's why you need to have an account to be able to chat, because some people, when you are a bigger streamer or depending on what you talk about, unfortunately it brings out the trolls.
Yes.
And yeah, if they don't even would need an account to troll, then it would be even worse. But yeah, the crafting community is pretty nice and relaxed, so there's no need to do anything like that.
Yeah, that is what I think I have found over the years that the crafting. Oop, that was my light. The crafting community just is such a warm and welcoming and supportive and encouraging um field to be in. Everyone, we tend to have very strongly held opinions about the right way to do things
Yes.
when it comes to our yarn, but for the most part, I think just as general, people are warm and welcoming.
Yeah. Yeah. There are exceptions. I've met some of them, but there's weird people everywhere. There's good people everywhere. There's bad people, but in general, a lot of the crafting or in general creative people seem to have a strong sense of community uh, first, and just like the fasten of Jana Long, it's about supporting each other and not being in competition and helping each other. And that's what I found here on Twitch as well. I have kind of like my own general crafting that includes art and any kind of craft you can imagine community that basically does year long in more or less involved manners what the Fasten of Jana Long does. Like, we promote each other when we have sales, when we have events where we all help each other out. We have yeah, if people appear in stream who also are streamers, we shout them out, which means there is a link posted to their stream so other people can follow them, or lots of us allow people to post a link to their shop, to their Instagram, if they have something like that, so other people can actually find them. So, and that's what I find a lot of the creative community is like, both on Twitch and on other platforms. So, yeah.
Yeah, there's a saying that that I have heard over the years, that a rising tide lifts all the boats, and I think we're all better when we collaborate and support each other and
Yes.
lift each other up rather than break each other down.
Exactly, and we are very much a community over competition. I'd rather have crafty
Absolutely.
friends who do kinda the same and kinda sell similar stuff for me, and maybe have a sale less, but have a friend I can talk to when I need one.
Yes.
Or who might, if I have a sale, tell people, hey, go over there, look at that. That might give me an extra sale, and the other way around. So it's much better than just fighting, and where would be the fun in that? I
Yes.
don't
And
see
it's nice to
why
have
some people are like that.
Yes, and it's nice to have someone that will understand when I say that I was knitting socks for my husband for a Christmas gift, and I picked the wrong size, and I picked based on his shoe size rather than his foot circumference, and I was all the way at the heel, and now this is where I'm at because I
Oh
had to frog
no.
him. So lucky for me, his birthday is in January. Oh, there he is. That's my husband.
Hello, Ranger Smurf. I like your name.
I didn't know he was going to be watching. Hi, husband.
Hello. So, Christmas spoilers. Yeah,
Christmas
hello,
spoilers,
Latrick.
yeah. Well, he knows about them because I tried them on him last night, and they were baggy, and I was trying to figure out what did I do wrong? Why would they
Oh,
be baggy? And
yeah. Some
that's
people have
because there's
slim but long feet, so they have the shoe size, but not don't need the extra stitches for the big socks that seem to be
yes,
there. Yeah.
yes. So they were about 2 inches too baggy.
Oh.
It's a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, getting back to a bit of people getting to know you. So how long have you been yarn crafting? I don't know if you just knit or do other crafts as well, and how did you learn?
So where should I start? I mean, unless you count friendship bracelets and things like that in, camp as a kid, and, rug hooking and all of those, that us artistic people tend to,
Mm-hmm.
start. I learned to crochet first, and I learned, about 24 years ago. I'm doing the math in my
Yeah.
head. Um, I was a volunteer for a youth group for high school students, and one of the things that we did was take the kids on retreats, I guess I'll call them. We went
Mm.
to a hotel, and it was like leadership training and all of that. But they were also high school kids, and so
Mm.
high school kids, being high school, being teenagers, they would, of course, they're in a hotel, boys and girls, and they would want to visit each other at night. And so one of our
Of
jobs
course.
as advisors was to sit in the hallway and keep the boys in the boys' rooms and the girls in the girls' rooms.
We have
And
never
so
done
I was
that as
sitting,
teenagers when we were on class trips or anything. No, we never tried that.
no. And so one of the other volunteers was, she was crocheting. And I thought that was so interesting. And so I asked her what she was doing and what that was all about. And so she gifted sitting in the hallway of a hotel, like think if you think of like the movie Dirty Dancing, like that type of like a Catskills,
Mm.
I'm in New York, so upstate New York, like a Catskills, like where they would have, way back when like musicians and acts and stuff, comedy acts and stuff
Mm.
would come. So this big kind of old hotel, and show, because we all travel with extra yarn and extra hooks and needles and whatever. So she
Of
gifted me
course.
a skein of yarn and a hook, and she taught me sitting in the hallway how to crochet. And so I did that for a long time, and I only really learned like how to chain and how to single crochet.
Mm.
And I had big plans. I was going to make a blanket for my bed, and it was going to be single crochet in the back loop only because I liked that kind of rich texture. So that never became a thing. I never
I
finished
wonder
that
why.
project.
I wonder why.
Um,
It's kind of an
yeah,
ambitious beginner project and sounds very time consuming.
yes. So that was how I learned, and then I learned a lot from YouTube over the years. And then I had my children, and I wanted to knit all the beautiful things for them. I was in love with the idea of making them all the beautiful sweaters and hats and all of those things. And so I tried learning from books, and I found that I couldn't, my brain just couldn't quite process the diagrams of how to go from figure one to figure two and what happens in between.
Yep.
And so then I turned to YouTube, and I found a video from someone who was teaching she was teaching knitting for crocheters. And
Mm-hmm.
really, it was just that she was teaching holding the yarn in the left hand, um, because that's how typically hold the yarn as a crocheter. And I had been
Yeah.
trying holding the yarn in my right hand, and I couldn't figure that all out. And so I was hooked, and I haven't really put the yarn down since I learned how to crochet, single crochet in that hotel. And I learned a lot from YouTube. I started out making photography props for newborn babies.
Mm.
If you think of like Anne Geddes and like all of the,
Yeah.
little cute outfits. So those were fun because those were quick, small, little projects, instant gratification.
Yep.
Um, and then I found an opportunity working in a local yarn store. And so I learned a lot more there, and I learned that I really have a passion for teaching others to knit and to crochet,
Mm.
and also for designing. So the designing thing started because I was teaching beginners how to knit, and then I would grab a piece of paper and I would jot down a little pattern for them to knit their first blanket. And the owner of the yarn store said, "You know what? That's silly. Type it out, give them
Mm.
something professional. They don't need your handwritten pattern.
Yep.
You're giving the same thing to every customer, so type it out." And she said, "And then I'll teach you how to make that into something that you can sell." And so that became, my big foray into designing and selling. I started with selling patterns on Ravelry, and through the Fasten Off Yarn Along, I created a pay hip shop so that people who are not able to or not comfortable or just generally prefer not to use Ravelry have an option.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of feel that with I was pregnant and wanted to make all the things because I learned to knit and crochet as a kid from my mom, who was a big knitter, and but I never really enjoyed it all that much, so I stopped after a while. And then
Mm-hmm.
I was pregnant and wanted to make all the pretty things for children. So I bought myself a book on how to knit, a book on how to crochet, because I had, but just keep in mind, I had done all of those before. So,
Mm-hmm.
kind of looking at the pictures and having the yarn in my hand, I got back into it pretty quickly because I was like, oh yeah, that looks familiar, let me see. And then, oh yeah, that's how you do it. Because I already kind of remembered vaguely how to do it. And then the pictures,
Mm-hmm.
so that helped me. But I also can't learn really new things just from graphics. I do better with someone showing me or a video on YouTube. So I get that as well. So yeah, and then I started making all the baby things and was like, so now I know how to do a basic baby hat, but I've seen this stitch pattern here that's fun. Can't I use that for the baby hat? Quick math. Hey, that works with the amount of stitches I'm usually using. Let's just put it in there. And then people asked, where did you find the pattern? And I was like, well, I used this basic and then put this stitch in there. How? And that was when I realized not everyone can do that. So I started writing it up and yeah, first gave patterns away for free, then started selling, so kind of the same as you. My son is 19 now, so yeah, it seems to be a similar time frame as well. So
Yeah, I would say that I found that to be very true, what you were saying, where you started as a child and you put it down for a long time and then you came back to it. And it is a little bit like riding a bike. It's that muscle memory.
yeah,
You know, I've had customers, classes where I've taught people who, when I was working in the yarn store, they retired. They finally now had time to focus on what they want to do. And they thought they would pick knitting or crocheting back up. And they say, I learned when I was 6 or when I was 10 and my grandmother taught me and I couldn't possibly remember. I'm a total beginner. I'm starting from scratch and give them the yarn and the needles and all of a sudden their hands are just knitting or the hook and they're crocheting and they're so surprised at themselves that their hands just really remember what to do and they need a little bit of refining like you did and a little bit of a refresher, but they're not brand new newbies. They're
yeah,
not starting at ground zero because they have a sense of how to tension the yarn and how to
mm,
hold the yarn and which hand does what activity as part of the knitting.
yeah. And hello, Mark in the cloud. Welcome in. If any of the new people here, I see some are chatting for the first time. If you want to tell me how you found your way here, or who you are, how you relate to the content today, feel free to do so. But I'm also happy to just have you in the background listening. There is never any pressure to chat, but you are always welcome to. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat and we'll get to them. So, but yeah, I can really agree with it. If you have something like that, it's really easy to get back into it. I'm usually someone I need a long time to do new things with my hand. That's part of I had a kind of yeah, disability on my right side when I was a baby, and they did lots of physical exercises to get that sorted. And I can do most things everyone else can do. I can walk, I can dance, I can write, but like I could read within a short time, but getting my hand to write in a way that people could actually decipher what I was doing took me much longer. So all this motoric stuff usually takes me a long time. So it was really a surprise for me how quickly I got back to it, because usually something new like that is, yeah. So Litwick seems to be someone who probably knows you, but yeah. Jessica has a supportive husband. Your husband
Yes, he
agrees,
shared.
and Mark in the cloud as well.
I think he shared this with a few of his friends. He is
Yeah.
the Discord and Twitch and gamer in our family,
Oh yeah.
and
Well, I'm the tech and gaming and crafty person, and my partner is the gamer and miniature painter person, and so we share quite a few things of that. So it works. So yeah, and Hailstormageddon and Sardine Finder. Some really nice names here.
oh, Mark in the
Yeah.
Cloud, you're letting all of his secrets out.
Yeah, and the things in the middle between us, you are correct. Those are all designs by Jessica. I usually show my own because part of this stream is, of course, usually advertising my own stuff. But since this is a special opportunity and a special occasion, my usual viewers know my things, and this is about having a guest and introducing them, so I'm of course showing her things.
Yes, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, that's as I said, it's about community and supporting each other. And I might not be a big streamer with a huge audience, but some of my regular viewers are yarn crafters, and they might find your patterns now, and at some point maybe get one or not if they don't like it. But it's up to them. But at least now they have a chance to find you. And I just posted in the chat a bit
Welcome, traveler.
of a text. Thank you for the follow, Mr. Dr. Jackie and Hailstormageddon. You used
Welcome,
to know how
traveler.
to crochet when you were a kid but stopped as you got older. One of your grandmas also taught you. That's great. And Mark in the Cloud. Thank you for the follow, everyone.
Welcome, traveler.
Getting all the alerts out of the follows usually takes a bit, but yeah. So it's great to have some people here. And there in what I posted is a link to the Payhip store where you can find the patterns Jessica is selling, and yeah, she also does have a Twitch account but does not stream. It was Double the Stitches, right?
Yes, it's double the stitches. I made it late one night playing around, but I haven't actually put any content or
So
streamed
I'm
there
just
yet.
trying
But
to give you a shout out and get the link come up. If my bot does
thank you.
double the stitch, yeah. Oh yeah, there it is.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll be on here in the new year.
Yeah, but so in case you want to follow her, just because she might stream at some point, here is the link. I'll follow you so I see if you decide to stream, and it doesn't hurt if you don't stream. Nothing happens for me. So yeah. But if you do stream, please let me know on Discord or somewhere so I can maybe let some other crafty people know to give you a follow and help you get a leg up. Because that's also what we do in my crafty community. If you're a new streamer on Twitch, you can't make money on Twitch. So we usually help people reach the affiliate status where you can get money on there, have emotes, do a few more things to interact with chat and things. So, and you need 50 followers for that. So we usually help new people by going there and giving them those follows quickly, or be in their streams so they have at least an average of 3 viewers for the required amount of time and all this stuff that Twitch wants to see. So it's easier to get to that point.
It's so helpful.
Yeah, so because Twitch wants to make money and they don't want to give you opportunities where they have to pay part of you to you if you are not really giving them regular views or something like that. So because they also show ads in your streams then, and if they don't make any money off of you, they basically don't want you to be in the position where you can get money from them. So
That's so interesting. I think my husband also said something about that they connected with Amazon somehow. So if you have an Amazon Prime account, I think you get like one person to subscribe to.
yes, exactly, because a subscription, it's, I think in the US it's $5, and half of that goes to the streamer, the other half goes to Twitch. But if you have a Prime account, you get one of those subscriptions per month for free, but the streamer still gets those $2.50.
Oh,
So basically, Amazon, which Twitch belongs to, in the as a big scale thing, they belong to Amazon. So basically, Amazon pays the streamer in your name. So that's what my partner and I do. He has a Prime account and he subscribes to me every month, so we get a bit of our Prime cost back, basically.
nice.
So we had a question, what is Tunisian crochet, or are you yourself Tunisian? No, I'm German. Tunisian crochet is a special technique like knitting and crochet, where you have lots of stitches on your hook and then work them off one at a time, whereas usually in crochet you just have the one stitch you work, and when you are done you just have one loop on the hook, only while you are working that one stitch. And in Tunisian it is a completely special technique which I'm just learning, but it's really interesting because you get different textures, a different type of fabric from knitting and from crochet, and it's interesting to use those different qualities of fabric in different ways. Like with crochet, I like that you can make really stable things like bags that don't need a lining if you use, for example, a single crochet. So it's a really sturdy fabric. Or you can easily make the most gorgeous lace. But knitting, on the other hand, is very stretchy by the nature of it. So you can get drapey things that are not lace much more easily than in crochet. And or for socks, basically they need to be stretchy, so you can fit them properly over the heel. That's much easier to do with an elastic knit fabric than with a less elastic crochet fabric. And if you make crochet very elastic, you often have holes in there. So they both are great crafts and for different things. And I think Tunisian crochet will, if I learn more about it, have, again, different properties and yeah, different things where it is really great for, and things where I might prefer another craft for. But yeah, I like to try all the things and figure that stuff out. So
I have a friend, so I only know the very, very basics of Tunisian, and I've never made a project with it. I have a friend who's a designer who's part of the Fast Enough Yarn Along. She just published a book on Tunisian crochet. And she goes all the way through, very beginner and step by step.
yeah,
And
I have that book on my wish list.
oh, you do from Glory
Yeah,
Designs?
exactly. Because it's been recommended to me because it has projects that go from beginner to experienced. Because often when I buy a beginner's pattern or a book that's for beginners, then yeah, I make one pattern from it and I want something more exciting. If I buy a book for more advanced crafters, I'm sitting there like, I can't do this because I'm missing
Yes.
the necessary steps. And I like that this has a lot of everything. So yeah, I can learn different things one at a time and don't have to jump in head first and get really confused, or stick with the very basics like I'm doing right now. It's basically the equivalent of a garter stitch in knitting, because it just does the easiest Tunisian stitch, which is aptly named Tunisian simple stitch.
Yeah, that's the only one I know.
Yeah. It's the only one I know so far as well. I have heard of others but never made another one. So this has been a fun project to get kind of into the habit of how it's done. But yeah, it gets boring after a while because it has nothing else going on.
I'm looking for the name of the book. Someone asked.
yeah. Oh, hello,
It's
Crafty Mom.
Exploring Tunisian Crochet by Lori Harrison.
I think I spelled the name right, but if not, Exploring Tunisian Crochet is definitely right.
Yes, I think it's just one S.
Yeah. I unfortunately can't look in my browser, because as soon as I open something else, your video won't get shown anymore. It only takes the video from the window if the window is in front of everything else. So even if I open another tab, it won't show your video anymore. We've tried that.
Oh no. Is it all right? Can I share the link to her website?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Ah, you found it. Wonderful. Yeah, Crafty Mom is one of the people. I think she knew me before I started streaming, or found me here at the very beginning, but definitely she's been part of my community here for a long time, and she's a crafter, as the name says. So,
yes.
yeah. Yeah, she sells it on her website, but it's available on Amazon as well. Depending on where in the world someone is like me, for me it's better to buy it on Amazon Germany than to buy it from her website and pay the huge shipping cost and customs fees and everything on top of it. Even though it would probably support her more buying it from her, just looking at the actual cost of it, it doesn't work that way for me at the moment.
Yes. I'm sure she would be thrilled if you said it was on your wish list. So
yeah, because we
to get it out there, you put so much work. I think I haven't published any books, but you put so much work into a book. You know, all the patterns and all of the content that goes into it. And you know, for me, I think that would be a hard thing to do, because it's to come up with all the designs for the book and then have them, you know, written and edited and tested before you can put it out there into the world. So you have all these things you have created, but you can't share them with anyone until the book is published.
And also you have a lot of overhead cost.
Yes.
Which for me personally is actually already a problem with patterns. Like, I recently lost my job, so we are on one income right now. So, which means we have enough money, but enough to live, but not for extras. So if I were to design another sweater, there is quite a bit of cost for the yarn, but okay. There's the time to make it, okay. Time I have more than enough right now. But then there is also, I would have to pay a tech editor for checking all the numbers. And if I do design a sweater, I want it to be size inclusive. So there will be a lot of numbers to check and a lot of measurements to check. So of course it would cost more than if I send a head pattern or a shawl pattern, something that's in one or maybe two sizes, to a tech editor, and that's pretty straightforward in construction. So of course it costs more to test a to have a garment pattern edited, because it costs them more time. But I would not have the money right now to pay them and then not know if my pattern actually will sell and if I will even get the money I spent on it back. And if I now imagine multiplying that for a book, all this cost, that is a huge commitment, and not everyone is financially able to do so as well. And not just
Yes, I
the
love
not
your
sharing and everything.
I loved your hat pattern that I recently saw. Was it blue with cables?
Oh yeah, the new one with the cable, yeah. I have it
Yeah,
here.
that was so pretty.
I made two. That's my new pattern. This was my first sample. That's going to my partner. I kinda got the proportions wrong. That's why there are no worn pictures of this one. But that I underestimated how big the cable would be. And then the part over the cable made the hat a bit too long. But if I fold the brim, the cable is hidden. So for the final version, I cut the part over the cable pattern off. And that's now mine in gray with the cable pattern on it, and that actually fits me, and you can fold the brim and oh, what a surprise, still see the cable.
Yeah.
But my partner wants the other one anyway, and he says it's a perfectly fine hat, I'll wear it, so yeah, he'll get it.
Yes, there's so much trial and error that goes into patterns to make it so that they are, that they fit well, but also even in the instructions to make sure that the instructions are clear, that other people can follow and understand
Yeah.
what's in our heads.
Yeah, there's so many different skills that go into being a designer. Like,
Yeah.
first you need to make up your sample in some way. Imagine what you want to do and get it done. This is for me the easy step. Because even if I get it wrong for something small like a hat, I'm just knitting a new one because it will fit on someone's head. That's usually the case, because there's so many different sizes of hats, and it's usually not worth whipping it back. But for bigger things, sometimes it doesn't work out the way I want it to, then you can whip back and redo it, and you learn from it. And so that's for me the easy part, to get the yarn to do what I want it to do. But then to write that up in a way that other people understand is a completely different skill set. And I had to learn to take notes while I'm knitting something up. So I don't later have to, how many rows did I do, and count them and recount them and make sure I didn't count them wrong. I can just write it down. And then just need to type it up. Well, just type it up. Add all the steps that I skipped in my hastily written notes, because those only need to make sense to me, but other people are not in my head. And they don't know the steps that I think are logical next. So I need to write those out in a way that people understand. But that's why I like having test knitters. Because, and I always tell them, if there is something you stumble over, please ask in the test for everyone to see. Because if you stumbled over it, even if you are the only of my testers, of the customers, there will be someone else who stumbles over it. Because they are new, because English isn't their first language, for whichever reason. If you stumbled over the way I wrote something, please mention it, and I will see if we can figure out a way that it works better. It's not always possible, but it helps so much finding all the things that don't, that are logical to me, but other people don't think of at that moment, because they maybe don't have as much crafting experience as I do.
Yes, I agree, and the testing is so important. And I like to have I have things reviewed by my tech editor first, but she checks the math and she checks that, the descriptions and things are standard. But having test knitters that are all different levels of skills is important because you can't put a requirement when you put a pattern out that you must know X, Y, and Z in order
Yeah,
to purchase this pattern. So I don't put that requirement on my test knitters. I ask that they're, confident and capable of the basic stitches, but everything else, any skill level, I'm happy to have them because I love having different eyes. And I think that beginner knitters find different things than a more advanced knitter might find. The more advanced knitter might find something more technical in the pattern, but a beginner knitter might stumble over the way I phrased something
yeah,
that they're not used to. And I love bringing in new people too because the more someone tests for you, I think the more used to the way that you think and write they become.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they feel like, oh, I know what she meant. So
yeah,
I'll just do what I know what she meant, but that doesn't help put out a pattern that others who don't know
yeah,
me
yeah,
can,
yeah.
can
Like
follow.
I had that in this test. I actually found a new tester through the Fasten Off because I posted there, and her first question was, "Can newish knitters test for you?" And I always say as well, I want beginners as well, unless I think this is a really complex thing for someone newish. But I always say, if you think this is something you can do, and if you would buy the pattern to try it, then yes, I want you as a tester because I need those newbie eyes. And she basically caught that the way I put instructions at the beginning, that she overlooked the part that she had to do before the cable starts.
Hmm.
And made a suggestion for how to better do it in the layout and add a little extra heading in there so it's more obvious to those that don't know how stuff like that is usually done. And without her, none of the other testers, the others were all already finished because she had hurt her hand and started late. If she hadn't done this, I would have never found this, and some people would have hated my pattern because it's not obvious to them, and then they would have made a mistake and would have blamed me for making it not more clear. So yeah, I, I totally agree that we should have beginners and experienced people test because they see different things.
Yeah, it's a whole other perspective, I think, depending on where you are in your journey of knitting.
Yeah. So let me just keep an eye on time because chatting is always fun, but also time flies while you do so. Oh, we have a question. What's one of the most difficult things you all have ever knitted or crocheted? Ooh. A lot of things that I did were difficult at the time I did them because they were newish to me, but now I would not think them that difficult anymore. So that's, for me, it's hard to answer that. But something I struggle with, where the technique is not my friend, is color work knitting, like Fair Isle, where you work with two strands at the same time. Those are things that are really difficult for me because I can't get the tension right. I get frustrated. I need to redo it because it's either too loose or too tight and pulls together. And so that's something I find difficult. So I tend to avoid stranded color work by now and use other techniques if I want more than one color in my crafting. But yeah, how about you?
For me, I think it was also, and I haven't finished it. It's still in my work in progress pile. It's a shawl that had stranded color work, and it wasn't the right side, the front facing side of it. It was having to manage it on because it's knit flat the Fair Isle color work on the wrong side, like in
Oh, yeah.
purling. I found much more complicated than in knitting. The trick that I learned for, like say making a hat that is color work is so two things that helped make that easier for me. One was holding one color in each hand. So knitting one
Mm.
English style and knitting one continental.
I tried that,
Which I
doesn't work for me because I don't know English knitting at all. So I would actually be learning a new technique for how to knit because I'm in Germany. Continental knitting is the standard, and that's what I was taught. So I never held my yarn in any hand other than my left.
yeah, I had never done English style until I worked in the yarn shop, and that was how she wanted all the new knitters to be taught with the yarn in the right hand. So I had to learn how to knit it that way so that I could teach people that way, and that was a big struggle for me. And it's still not my preferred thing, and I really only, I think, if I'm knitting color work, do I use both hands, or when I am making a video for a technique, I do um, courses and workshops and things. And so a technique I will show um, how to do it in with both hands because I think that that's a nice way to support knitters to get them to
Yeah.
see how things are done both ways because they do look a little bit different. The end result is the same, but they do look a little bit different.
Okay, we do have an
And
ad break, which means people won't necessarily hear us unless they are
okay.
subscribers or have a workaround for it, which we of course do not promote. Yeah, it's stupid. If I could, I would have no ads, but Twitch
Yeah.
doesn't let me, so I have to I have them scheduled, which means I see when they happen. And I also,
Mm.
what I did just now was postpone it as many times as Twitch lets me. So I can, yeah, so we had a longer piece in one go without an ad interruption.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, since a lot of people are new, I would say we wait for another 30 seconds, then the ads are over before we talk about anything that might be really interesting for everyone. Oh, I did not ask that yet. That's something I can do. I have put the other chats on YouTube after we were done. Is that okay with you?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, I just don't want
Yeah, and I will.
to put something out in a permanent way without checking with the other people involved. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, I will add it. I have a section on my YouTube channel um, of things I've been featured on, so I'll add that to that playlist
okay, I'll give you the link once
there.
it's up.
Yeah, perfect. Thank
Good.
you.
Oh,
I don't
and
have a
we
very
are.
big YouTube. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm not having a big YouTube either, but I thought first for those people that I know there are some people for whom Twitch is a bit too much or that don't want to use another platform, and I thought it might be a good idea to put this on there. And also it is content for my YouTube that actually might be interesting to rewatch, unless a standard stream where I mostly talk to the people that appear in my chat or tell about my life and knit. That's something nice to join while it happens, because then you can talk to the person. But yeah, if it's not just like between us, a conversation between two people, when you are just watching one-sided conversations happening, it's kind of weird and not the thing I would watch. So I don't put that up on my YouTube. So yeah, I thought it was a great way to combine those two things, getting extra content and having it available for more people. I just put the link to my YouTube out in case someone who's watching wants to catch up on it or watch the other talks I already did. I had 2 other guests already. They are on my YouTube. And yeah, so. But let's get a bit back to our things we wanted to talk about.
Sure.
um, I had a question on there. Do you have anything new coming up soon? Something that we can look forward to? A new design that you plan to bring out soon, or an event that you are part of, or something that you want to talk about?
Sure. So the sweater I'm wearing is new. It is, you're talking about all the work, hard work that goes into designing a sweater and making it inclusive and having all of the sizes and having it graded for the sizes so that it fits, that large range of bodies because we're all shaped,
Yeah.
different sizes, but also just generally shaped different. And having it graded and having it tech edited and have it's in testing now. And that is this, it's called the Coterie sweater, and that will be out, should be out in January. I've had a few testers finish it. And like you said, testers catch different things. So they caught, I made a change in how many stitches I picked up under the sleeve, and then I didn't incorporate those into the sleeve. So little things like that where, some testers just said, oh, of course I have to pick up all of the stitches and, figure it out from there. And so it was excellent to have testers who are critical thinkers and, pause and say, wait, the number of stitches on my needles doesn't match what she wrote there. And so
Yeah.
that's why we have test knitters. So that'll be released in January, and I'm excited about that. I think it has 9 sizes. I think that was the total number I ended up with.
Yeah.
And this has been a project. I got the yarn for this in, I think, February. So a very long, I designed lots of things in between and did lots of things in between.
Yeah.
But this was kind of always in the background, like, oh, I need to, get back to that. So I'm excited to release my first sweater. I just released my first sock pattern, which I don't have here, but so that's in my Pay Hip shop. And in February, I'm hosting a fun and free event. I am getting together with a bunch of other knitting designers and instructors and sharing tips and tricks, things that we all wish that we knew when we started knitting or when we started teaching.
Oh,
So that's going to be in February.
so that's
So I'm
2
excited about
interesting things. Can't wait to see the sweater come out. What I can see of it looks nice
I don't
with a
know.
lacy yoke.
It's a lace yoke. Move that. That's gonna. Here, we'll go like this so you can
Oh
see.
yeah,
So it's a
that's
lace yoke,
that's
and then
beautiful.
it has a little bit of like a puff at the sleeves, and it has a split hem so that doesn't, gather up, and is a little bit more flattering, I thought.
Yeah, I can post the link again. I'm just putting up your blurb again. There is a link
Oh, thank
to
you.
the pattern shop in there. I did set
Hmm.
up a command so I can easily get the stuff on screen.
Oh,
You
nice.
can, well, I basically set it up once and then just edited it for every guest that appeared with the new link. It's pretty easy to do once you know what you're doing, and I've been streaming for 3 years now, so those things are, yeah, I know what I'm doing on that end.
That's excellent. Yeah, I have a website, which is doublethestitches.com, and that's pretty much my handle wherever, Instagram, Facebook, and all of that. Um,
Yeah, that's
yeah, so I'm
basically what
excited
I do
about that.
as well. Try to have the same name everywhere, and so makes you easier to find.
So that's why I made the Twitch account because just in case I ever, go down that path, I figured I should own the name so that someone else doesn't on the name.
Yeah. And then you need to add a weird number to the end or do some other weird stuff to still be recognizable. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, or add underscores or dashes
Yeah.
or other things, and it just makes it harder. Um, when you have a name that people start to recognize you, it makes it harder for people to find you. So
Yeah, that's
claim it
true.
wherever.
So,
There's my husband. Still watching,
well,
honey.
it's fine when it's just a personal account. I like, for example, I'm in most places where I'm not as my business, but as a person with an account, I'm Selana. If Selana is taken, I have one number I add, which in 99% of all cases is still available. So I'm still recognizable with the same name and this one number or not, but I'm still
Mhm.
recognizable. I can easily remember it, and I don't have a problem having that number at the end. But as a business account, I would find it weird to do it that way.
Sure.
And hello, little Mama Crochet. Welcome in. Yeah, especially the number sequences of 1002 in the name are weird. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. I can tell the both of you know each other.
Yeah.
That's the way I joke around with my friends as well.
Yes.
But yeah, so and if you design, is there something what generally tends to inspire your designs? Are there some influences or some things you always take into account when designing?
One of the things I try to take into account because I do a lot of workshops or support for things, I try to put the tricky stuff in the beginning of the pattern, somewhere, close to the beginning. Like I design
I need to interrupt.
a top. Oh yeah.
So that is a must in my stream. When that sound alert is triggered, I need to dance. So thank you, Darth, for giving me a stretch. So yeah, to get the tricky parts done first was what you said.
To get the tricky parts done first. And if I'm teaching a workshop, I try to have a little project, a small project to give a quick win and, not an instant win, but
Mm-hmm.
to feel like you have mastered the technique. So I mentioned my first sock pattern, and to go along with it, and I happen to have it with
Yeah, it
me.
just shows up on
I
the
don't have the full
stream
size sock, but
right now. Yeah.
I did a little mini
Oh.
stocking, if you can see, that holds a gift card. And I did a whole like a challenge, a week-long challenge, and I taught all of the different techniques that I use. So from the cast on that I used, to the heel flap and turning the heel and the gusset and the dreaded Kitchener stitch for the toe. And so we did
Yeah.
it on worsted weight yarn, and we did it over a small number of stitches so that it wasn't cast on 80 stitches. It was, much
Yep.
smaller number and bigger needles instead of the little toothpick sock needles, to try to get people comfortable with the techniques. And I think that is important. I've seen a lot of, and this was a mistake I made even in the beginning teaching, asking a brand new knitter or someone who's never done a technique to have a scarf or a blanket be their first project
Yeah.
is not setting them up for success, because it will take them forever and then they'll never have that gratification of, here's a thing and I made it.
Yeah. There's one thing I learned when I taught my son how to knit, because I got a
Hmm.
children's knitting book for that. So he could look at things and could also learn how to read a pattern or read instructions and not just hear it from me, because he was old enough for that already. And they
Yeah.
basically started with squares. They made a small square in its stitch. Here you have a coaster.
Yeah.
Oh, make 2 small squares, sew them together, put some stuffing in, make a face on it. You have a plushie. And then they had different add-ons with felt also that you could sew on there with templates. So you could, then you had a pearl rectangle, but nothing bigger than this. And then you knit stockinette, but you always made squares or rectangles, 2 small ones that you put together, and you could make a fun animal with it. And then they started with increases and decreases and made triangles for bunting or butterflies and things to do with those small bits. So you are not just swatching and practicing, but you have something useful to do with it. And one thing that book has had at the beginning that really sounded right for me was pick a yarn that you like the look and feel of. There is no right or wrong yarn, but pick one that you like and pick something that's it just needs to appeal to you. And even if it's not the most basic thing to do, if you really want that thing, then you will make it. But to knit for days and weeks on end on a garter stitch scarf just to practice knitting, you will get so bored of it. And you will probably never finish it.
Like the single crochet in the back loop only blanket.
Yeah.
It was never going to be a project I was going to complete.
Darth. Question: what's a yarn's favorite type of book? Answer: anything with a good twist.
I love that.
I like that one. Thank you. Yeah, Darth is part of my community, but not a yarn crafter. But yeah, he's regularly around and entertains people and keeps me moving and so yeah. But yeah, that's interesting that your focus is on how do I design something so it's very accessible to new people. For me, it's often like stories or movies or things that make me, where I'm looking at, the style of clothes or what I imagine people wearing in a book or something like that, or I see something and want to recreate the feel of that in yarn. So I think it's interesting to see how different people approach designing, and that all leads to unique things being created. So I really like that. So you all,
especially with oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just go fast.
Oh, I was going to say that with teaching workshops and stuff, if you have someone, they have to cast on and they have homework to do. They have to knit, 3 inches or, a whole shawl before they get to the tricky parts, the tricky bits. It makes it hard to teach a class about that because they have so much to do and you'll never know when they'll get to that part. So I like introducing stuff really early on.
Yeah, well, I have never really taught classes, but often here when I stream, I have people ask, what would you recommend someone new to start with or how to start? And that's where for me always comes in, pick a yarn you will like to feel and look at when you work, and pick something that you will actually want to have. And if you want to start practicing the stitches because everyone is different, do get a yarn like with a high wool or high cotton content so you can actually use the resulting thing as a coaster. If you want to make a hot pad, please get a pure wool or pure cotton because the plastic will otherwise melt if whatever you put on there is too hot. and things like that. But otherwise, feel the yarn, look at the yarn. If you want, if you think, oh, that feels weird, but it's cheap, I'll try it. No, because you won't have fun with it. If it feels weird, don't get it, no matter how cheap it is. And,
Yes.
and once you have the basics down, pick something you want to make. Even if people tell you, but this technique is so complicated. If you really want to make it, you will put in the time and effort to learn how to do it, because you have the motivation of, I want this item. Just learn a technique for the sake of learning it when you don't like the item that's resulting in it. That's something that doesn't work for most people. You need a motivation to stick with it when it gets tricky.
The other project I love, speaking of knitting squares and rectangles, is fingerless gloves, where
Yes.
you can knit a rectangle and you sew the seam from the wrist to the base of the thumb. You leave a
Yeah.
little space and you sew another seam
Yeah.
from the other side of the thumb up
Yeah.
to the other end, and that's just a rectangle. And I like that for teaching, for learning, because you learn how to cast on, learn how to knit, you learn how to bind off, and you learn how to seam something all in
Yeah.
a tiny project. And then you have another little practice piece to do it all over again, so it reinforces that learning,
Yeah.
as compared to, a scarf and you cast on and you knit forever, and then eventually you bind off, but you don't get to practice those techniques again until you decide that you're going to make another one.
Yeah. 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 You're right. The
You
fingerless
can still
gloves
type.
are great things. Or when someone wants to learn how to knit in the round, I'm saying find a hat pattern that you like, that doesn't have too much in it that you don't know yet. Because a hat usually, most of them don't use really thin yarn. And you can learn how to knit in the round. It's still a relatively quick project. You get the decreases for a crown, or you start at the crown and knit down, but you learn different techniques, get to practice, and then you are relatively quickly done, even as a beginner, and have a result. So, or because hats get worn by almost everyone. Cowls are, a lot of people tell me, I don't like it when someone's tight around the neck. If you go for something looser, you are already almost at the dimensions of a scarf again. So so hats are my go-to for practicing in the round, or simple fingerless mitts or things like that, depending on what you want to have. Not everyone needs to make the mistake and start with baby socks as their first in the round knitting project, like I did. I've never done things by half. I always jumped right in, but yeah. That also can be frustrating if you try things too early and then don't get along with the new techniques and are like, no, I never want to do this again. So, yeah, we were talking a bit about accessibility in the way you teach, or in inclusivity with designing for different sizes, but you also mentioned that things like screen reader accessibility and things like that are important for you. And that's something that I find really interesting, because I have a low vision version of a lot of my patterns. I need to go over the old ones and add that slowly, but I add that for all the new ones. And but I know little on how to make a PDF that's actually screen reader accessible, because I have learned just because you have a PDF doesn't mean the screen reader necessarily can read everything correctly.
So I took a workshop with a woman. Her name is Renee Van Hoy, and she is a low vision consultant, I think is what her title is when it comes to crafting patterns. And so she works with knit and crochet and loom knitting, I think, also. And so the basis of it is for it to be low vision is for the pattern to be large print, solid, full black.
Yeah.
And when it comes to for it to be screen reader accessible, the idea is that everything is spelled out. There are no abbreviations. And the way that we write things sometimes where we give instructions, say, for rows 1 through 4, and then we say repeat 1 through 4, rows 1 through 4, 10 times.
Yeah.
And so for it to be more screen reader accessible, we put that in the beginning. We say repeat the following, work the following 11 times, and then give the instruction so they can prepare and know what they're going to be doing. But all
Oh, yeah.
abbreviations spelled out, so we wouldn't say, approx within a period. We would say approximately, and you don't even really need fancy software or programs. Even Adobe Acrobat Reader has a function in it where you can turn on read out loud, and you can pick where it will read just a page at a time, or where it can read the whole file for you. And I do a lot of them in my fancy design software, but sometimes I just do them in, I have a Mac, so like Apple Pages, but I'm sure, Microsoft Word or whatever
I
would do.
personally
And
use OpenOffice because Microsoft Word costs a lot of money and OpenOffice does 99% of the same stuff for free.
yes, absolutely. I think I've used Google Docs as well.
I've used that
But
for
that's,
some things, but not for pattern designs.
but yeah, it's the way that things are phrased, and a lot of times as designers, to keep a printed pattern shorter, we will say, when we're up to say row 50, we'll say, okay, repeat row 48, because the
Yeah.
instruction is the same. And so for someone who doesn't struggle with their vision, it's easy for them to go back, find row 48 and do the instruction.
Yeah.
But to keep it screen reader accessible and all of that, the idea is that you don't tell them to repeat something previously. For each row of instruction, you write it out, even if it feels repetitive, and even if that document becomes 40 or 50 pages. It doesn't really matter the number of pages. It more matters the ease of following it and the ease of use without having to go backwards.
Yeah, that's what I actually generally do. I hate this. Now repeat row 3. Where was row 3? How did it go?
Yeah.
I find that so annoying. But I'm usually a chart knitter. That's how I learned, because in Germany 99% of all patterns are charted, especially in magazines or anything. There's always a chart, so that's what I learned to use. And written instructions, especially in English with all the abbreviations, if it's a long row where a lot of stuff happens, I get very confused. It's not how my brain works. So I look at it, at some point it's just letters and numbers, and it doesn't make any sense to me. I need to really, really focus on it. So, and if then I have to switch back and forth, up and down, to look up what to do, that confuses me even more, and I forget where was I, what did I have to do, which row, and it makes it too complex for me. And I also found with testers that some of them had the same type of problem. If it says repeat row whatever, especially if that row is not on the same page, it gets really confusing. If it's just like for row 2 and all even numbered rows, knit all stitches or purl all stitches, that's something I have done before. But that's something easy that you remember, because it's going throughout the pattern and going to be the same all the time. But if it's just a random repeat this row, because it just happens to be the same, and that's something that my brain does not compute.
For sure.
So I totally get why that might be even more complicated when you have it in just, you listen to it and you are like, right, and what again was row 6? Because I can't just read it up. So that makes total sense to me.
Yeah, I do love charts. I initially, when I was, a new knitter, I found them very hard, very confusing. But over time, I took classes and I learned how to read them. And what I love about them is that if you know what each symbol means, it doesn't matter what language the designer speaks. So I've
Yes.
done a lot of designs using Japanese knitting charts,
Yeah.
and their arrangements
And
of stitches are really beautiful. I don't need to speak Japanese. I don't speak a word of Japanese.
yeah.
Um, but because I have found there are books out there that explain how to do a symbol in English, I can knit from a Japanese pattern
Yeah.
because I know what each symbol means, and the tricky
Yeah.
ones I've found videos for to watch
Yeah,
them do it,
exactly, because
and
there
that
might
makes
be
it,
some unusual thing that you're not familiar with, but and also a chart for me, if you look at it, you get a kind of visual what your stitches on the needle are supposed to look like. Like how are, if you knit lace, how do the holes arrange? Are they in a straight line? Go they at an angle? The increases and decreases, especially the decreases, make sense because it's a line going this way or this way. So you know what's supposed to happen when you look at it, and you get an idea of. I'm a very visual person, so you basically get an idea what it's supposed to look like when you have knit it. It helps me to look at my knitting and go like, wait, those holes in the lace are not in the same, stacked in the same way they are in the chart. Something is wrong here. With written instructions, I only notice if I have made a mistake when I get back to it, and my stitch count in between something doesn't work.
yes.
So that's why they work for me. But as I said before, not everyone's brain works the same way. So not everyone one can go from this visual of the chart to, oh yeah, that looks like this in my knitting. And for me, it's the most natural way to do it. So we
Yeah, it
are
is. It
in.
has become that for me. And what I try to do in my patterns is to always provide the written instruction if I'm going, especially if I'm going to have a chart, because that covers kind of all the bases. And so it gives the ability for someone who loves charts to just follow the chart, and for someone who is new to charts to double check what they think it means with what it actually means. And then
Yeah.
as they go through the pattern and they get more comfortable with it, they can my hope is that they can progress to the point where they're really super comfortable with the chart, but at least they have that
Yes.
backup to confirm, as they're trying to understand how it all comes together.
Yeah, that's what I also got to do at a certain point. I mean, my first patterns were not that well thought out, but yeah, I basically, if it's something that requires a chart for some people or where a chart makes sense to me, I add a chart. But I
Hmm.
also have the written instructions on how to work that. So people who are not comfortable with charts can just use the written pattern. And as you said, if you are new to charts, you can always compare. Or if you are knitting and aren't sure, does this make sense? Maybe have a look at the chart and try to figure it out. And oh, there might be a typo in the pattern. Or no, that is right. It's just my brain that didn't comprehend what was going on. Or things like that. So it's always nice to be able to double check.
Hmm. Yeah, I love what you said though about where there might be a typo, because it happens, and as designers, we're all human, and even though it's been, tech edited and it's been tested by other knitters, sometimes there's something that gets missed, and
Yeah.
it happens. But my advice, I think a lot of knitters, especially newer knitters, I find sometimes automatically assume that there must be a mistake when they don't understand it. And my advice would be to try it. It's just yarn, it's just needles. If it doesn't work out the way you expect it to, rip back that row and try it again. But if you know that this is a designer who's putting that effort and energy and putting out professional patterns, trust the pattern before questioning the pattern.
Yeah.
Trust that
Yes.
they did that work and that it should work out somehow.
Yes.
As it usually does.
Little Mama Crochet said, my favorite stitch books are Japanese. They have such pretty stitch combinations. Yes, yes, they do.
Me too. Yeah.
They are not necessarily the easiest stitch patterns to do because they combine so many things, but they are so beautiful. Totally agree with that. And yes, please try working the instructions as written first. Maybe compare with the chart or the other way around when you are not 100% certain. But if they both say the same, please just do it and trust the designer. If it then still doesn't work out, please don't go on Facebook and complain about the designer, but send the designer an email or a message on the platform where you bought or on Instagram where you follow them or something, but talk to the designer. Because yes, we are human. Our testers are human. Our tech editors are human. I have had a pattern that has been done by dozens of people that I know of that put up projects on Ravelry. And then a friend of mine made it and was like, did you mean to say this? And I looked at the pattern and was like, oh my God, how did this slip through so many people? Not a single project on Ravelry had in the notes there was a mistake. Nothing. Nobody had noticed except for her. Because apparently only more experienced people had done it and had automatically in their mind corrected my mistake. But there was a clear mistake in the pattern and nobody had noticed. Not me, not my tech editor, not my testers, and not the people who crafted it. And if she hadn't told me, I would have never found that mistake, because you don't go randomly over your old patterns and read them again.
No.
You have too many new ones to work on. So, yeah, it's always important to let the designer know, because they can double check, either explain to you why this is correct and what you should do, or fix the mistake. But if you go on Facebook and complain about that designer, there will be people who will never ever ever buy from that designer again, because they read on Facebook they put out wrong patterns. Even if 20 comments later someone says, I have that pattern, it is correct, you read it wrong, nobody will notice that 20th comment down there. They will all have read the stuff before, and that designer might get a bad name. So please talk to the person who made the pattern. If they then don't reply to you within a reasonable time frame, fine, go and complain. Because if someone sends me an email, maybe give me a day or two, because life might be busy, I might be on vacation or something, not check my emails several times a day. I usually do, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. So give me a day or two to get back to you, at least with an, oh, I will check it out. But if nothing happens after a week or two and you get no reply, then yes, that designer is
Welcome,
not helpful
traveler.
to what you are doing. Then you have every right to complain. And in my opinion, but at least try to get in contact with them, because most of us are more than willing to help you troubleshoot anything in our patterns, and if there really is a mistake in there, we want to know and we want to fix it. And thank you for the follow, Fallen Worm. Welcome in. Yeah, yes, I have the poker catch thingy on. It's
So what's coming up next for you?
hmm?
What's coming up next for you? What are you
Oh,
excited about?
well, from muted? Muted? No, we are not muted. Can everyone else hear us? Because according to my software, we are not muted. Okay, just you. Okay,
Okay, great.
everyone can hear us. Okay. I'm always scared, like, wow, did my software do something weird?
Yeah. Oh, I'm not touching anything. I'm afraid to touch anything.
Oh, sometimes I don't touch anything on my software, but something did an update, a Windows update, and then somehow my microphone gets changed to standard. I don't know what
Mm.
standard is. It definitely isn't a microphone that I have, because then nobody can hear me. So I have no idea
Switch
what
it,
my
switch it.
software thinks I have as a microphone then. But so yeah, sometimes technology is just weird. And yes, Twitch sometimes gets twitchy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, my Twitch app freaked out. Yeah, it happens sometimes. But good to know it was just on your end. That means, yeah, this is all fine. So we've been talking for an hour and a half now. Just so you know, it's because you said you have something else later, so you need to keep an eye on time. Yeah. What's
Yeah, I
new?
have a few more minutes.
Yeah, what's coming next for me is, well, I do plan also to make a matching cowl to the hat pattern I just published. I'm just getting back into designing regularly because life happened. First, COVID took lots of my creative energy. Then I moved. Then I had a new job, and it just I have chronic depression, so my amount of energy I could use for designing just was very low. Then I do have a bunch of new ideas, but nothing big that got started yet. So yeah, I don't know what else will be coming, but I definitely have ideas and I have more time now to work on them. So there will be new designs coming up. I have a few things that have notes already taken and samples where I wasn't sure if I should publish them or not, so I might revisit them, maybe tweak them and then publish them, just something like that. We will have to see. But yeah, lots of ideas that need to be worked up, but nothing immediate except for a matching cowl to go with the cabled hat. So yeah, that's what's coming for me design wise. But I definitely plan to do more again because I missed it. And well, need to yeah, take advantage of the positives of not having a job, which is I have more time and energy to put into other things. It's not fun to have no spending money, but good thing is most of us yarn crafters have a stash, so we can craft. And Crafty Mom asked, Jessica, are you on Ravelry?
Yes, I am. That is, I would say that's probably my main selling platform. But I do also have PayHip, but I can put that. It's the Ravelry link
Yeah.
for anyone who likes to use it.
Yeah. Just if you
And
are not aware of it and don't use Ravelry regularly, it might be difficult for some people who are photosensitive and has been known to cause headaches, migraines, and even in some people seizures. So
yes, so user beware.
yeah, that I just like to inform people if they are not aware of it. If you're already a Ravelry user, you know whether you can go there or not. But for new people,
Yes.
I like to put that warning out because there's still something. I personally can use it with some of the modes they have put out, but not for a very long time. If I use it for longer, then I get a headache. And yeah. So it's still my main selling platform because it is unique in the way that you can randomly look for, I want to make a hat with this yarn weight and this amount of yarn, and you get shown all the hats that fit the bill. And people can randomly find your patterns. So yeah, it's still the platform I make the most of my sales. That's why I still have it. Because I definitely don't sell enough or have a large enough community to get them all to go to PayHip because they like my stuff so much. There are more people who randomly find me in a search, and that's not something you can do on PayHip.
Right. PayHip doesn't have a search feature across all of the different people who have shops there.
Yeah, but I mean, PayHip has been created with a completely different purpose.
Yes.
At the beginning, so that it makes sense that they don't have that. And when a lot of knitwear designers migrated there, they actually have. I have been one of the first ones to go over there. They have listened to feedback. They have put in things that would help us to do things better for what we are selling as compared to a normal ebook or other digital content that might be usually on there. So yeah, they basically listen to some of the feedback, not to all of it, but you can never expect a platform to take every feedback into account. But they definitely tried to accommodate all the new people that were coming there and using their platform. So yeah, I can at least as a second shop option, I can recommend them because it is easy to list there. They take care of all the stuff like the VAT for different countries and stuff of that for you, and you just upload your pattern and it gets sent out when it's bought. You don't need to do anything extra. And if you don't sell much, you use their free option and just pay when you sell. If nothing sells, you have no cost. You don't have a listing cost, nothing. So
Right, like Etsy, for example, is another place a lot of designers sell patterns, and you have to pay fees, and their fees are higher, I think, than other places.
I have expanded there now with my most popular patterns and have decided new ones go up there as well, and I'm giving it half a year to see if I start selling there semi-regularly. If not, I can always close the shop again, but then I have a set amount of money that I invested that I lost, and not an endless money drain. Because if I don't sell more, then the listing of all the stuff and relisting it when it expires, because it doesn't stay forever for that amount that you put on there. No, you have to renew it and then to pay again. And now all payments get done over Etsy. You can't just say, I'm taking PayPal. You say, I'm taking Etsy payments. So they get the payment processing fee and the selling fee and the listing fee. When you sell, they by now get over 10% plus 30 cents, which before was split between Etsy and PayPal or however you processed your payment. And then you get your money once a month on your bank account. But you have no control over anything anymore. You can't just say, I'm refunding you over PayPal if something went wrong and solve that. No, you have to all solve it over Etsy now if something happens and all that stuff. And they take all the money. And I mean, the listing fee plus 10% plus 30 cents for each sale, that is quite a huge amount that goes away from your sale.
Mm-hmm.
So we will see if it works for me, if I get sales through Etsy and they give you statistics how people found you. Then I might stay. If I only get it because I put the link out, well, then I can just as well send the people to PayHip. Because if they click on Etsy, they might also click on PayHip. So, yeah, I'm testing it for now.
Yeah, I'd love, keep me updated. Let me
Yeah.
know how that goes. I'm interested to know whether it's worth trying to go back. I started there, but as you said, you lose control, and they keep the money, and they keep it for the whole month, and they so that they can earn interest on it.
Yeah. It's but yeah, it's also a platform people know better than PayHip. And I've
Yeah.
heard from people like, I don't know that platform. Is it safe to buy there?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So we'll see if the Etsy thing works out for me or not. But yeah, I decided it's what worth spending a little money, because it's not that much you have to pay ahead of time for listing. I mean, I don't need to list the pattern 20 times. I list it 3 times, so in case it really should sell more than once on a day, it's not sold out immediately. But yeah, and if I realize something sells a lot, I can always at some point say, okay, I'm listing it 10 times because it will sell before it expires, or something like that. But yeah, so it's worth a try, but we'll see how it goes. So far, I had one sale there in the Fasten of Jana Long, but I didn't open it long before the Fasten of Jana Long, so
Yeah, I think, we're being such small micro businesses, I think we're always testing different things to see what sticks.
yeah. And it's, as the whole Ravelry people can't use it anymore thing has shown, it's always difficult if you put all your eggs into one basket. Because if something happens and you can't use that anymore for whatever reason, like I know some
Mm-hmm.
designers who are among the people affected with bad migraines, they can't sell on Ravelry anymore. If you didn't
Yeah.
already have anything else, you needed to, like this, set up something completely new and get people to find you there. So it's better if you have something that works and that's already established, if you then start putting out feelers and try, so you already have a presence in some other place and then can redirect people in case you need to.
Yeah, for me, that's also what comes to like my email list has been a big thing for me as a designer. I have a Facebook group and Instagram and all of those things, but you never know when one day you might lose that account or lose access to it.
Yeah.
And so I've always been taught by different, mentors and things over the years that your email list is really the only thing that
Yep.
you own, a way to access your
And
your audience.
and also with Instagram, you can have 1,000 followers and maybe 10 get to see your stuff because of the algorithms. If you have 100 people in your newsletter, all of those 100 people will get your newsletter and can decide, do I want to open it or not? Do I want to interact with what's in there or not? But they will
Right.
get
But it,
it.
it is their choice at that point. No one is making that decision for them.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's why I also have a newsletter, and why I have spread out to Mastodon as a social media, because
Mm.
they don't use algorithms. if I post it, every person who follows me gets it in their timeline within the next minute or two. And the timeline is in chronological order. Every people who follows the hashtag knitting, if I post about knitting, will get to see my post. Everyone who checks out the hashtag knitting will get all the posts about knitting in chronological order, so has a chance of finding me. Not the most popular ones, not the most retweeted ones. And yes, sharing still is a thing, because if someone shares my post, all of their audience gets to see it. But it doesn't get shown to more people on the platform's side because it's been shared more or liked more. So it's not as necessary as it is on other platforms. So I found that I reach a lot more people with a lot smaller following there, and get a lot more interaction on my content than I get on any other social media platform.
Oh, I'll have to check that out. I'm not super familiar with them.
Yeah, it's something I got to when Twitter with Elon Musk started to get very right-wing and looked at like maybe it might not even survive, and I was looking for alternatives
Yeah.
that I didn't already have, and I still had my Instagram, I still had my mailing list, but I was looking into something else, and it's a place where, well, it reminds me of social media like it was at the beginning, when you got your stuff in chronological order and it wasn't overrun with advertising, because it doesn't have advertising. It's not one company owning it. So the only advertising you get is when someone posts, hey, I'm selling this. And that's mostly small businesses, because most servers where you can get your account have a policy against big companies doing advertising. But small
Right.
artists might advertise their own stuff. So yeah, you basically get curated to you advertising because you follow the people you want to see stuff of. When you follow knitters, you get knitting advertised. And so that's making it for me a much nicer place to be. I'm maybe too old for the way all this stuff is handled now. My son has different opinions on that, but he grew up with a completely different social media world than I got to experience when that all came up.
Yeah. Our kids are 12, so we're trying to keep them off of a lot of stuff
Yeah,
for
when
now.
mine was 12, I did too, but he is 19 now, so
Yeah.
he has been using various forms of social media for a while, because at some point you don't limit their internet access on their phones anymore, just because of WhatsApp and how they keep in contact with a lot of people over the internet.
Yeah. We're still in charge for now. I don't know how much longer.
Yeah, yeah, it's. But when he was 12, I was kind of the same. So your kids are 12? Do you have twins?
I have twins, yes. That's how the name of my brand began. The Double the Stitches
Oh,
was something I came up with one very sleepless night when they were babies. That if I ever wanted to create knit or crochet things for them, I was going to need double the stitches. And it just kind of stuck.
so are there any last minute questions for Jessica before she has to leave us? Just in case. I mean, some interesting things have been asked in between, and I hope you enjoyed listening to us chat. I definitely had fun talking to you.
Yes, this was such a treat. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, I did that for the first time last year and only had 2 people taking me up on it. And but I really enjoyed it because you get to know the person behind everything a bit better, and you find things in common, things that are different, and yeah, I always think that's a great thing if you get to know the people and not just the name on a screen or the patterns they make, but connect with people. That's something that's rather important to me in my life, to actually connect to people through what I do and not
Me too.
just,
And I
yeah.
will. I'm glad that you're going to put this on YouTube because I'm going to share that with my audience.
Yeah,
So those
that's,
who
yeah.
are not comfortable or don't don't use Twitch and things like that, so that they can watch this
Yeah,
too
I,
and
I
get to
will
know you.
definitely also share the link in the Yana Long, and will send it to you once it's uploaded. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think if I keep doing the Fasten of Yana Long, which I intend to, I think I will keep offering that, because I always enjoyed every single talk I had on here, and everyone was different, but that's kind of the fun of it for me.
Yes, it was so nice to meet your audience too. Thank you guys for hanging out.
Yeah, and everyone who came from your side or your husband's side, thank you for stopping by. Maybe if you are interested in crafting, or basically just chatting about everything and anything, because I craft and we talk about everything that comes up: real life, mental health, crafting, geeky stuff, books, TV series, you name it, we have probably talked about it. So yeah, it's basically just chatting, but with added crafting on my side.
Mhm.
So yeah, it would be great if some of you would check me out. I will keep streaming for a little bit longer, but we'll say goodbye to Jessica then. Um, Crafty Mom says, nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too.
Yeah, and
Yeah, thank you again so much. This was such a treat.
yeah, for me too. See you soon. Bye.
See you soon. Take care.
Yes, 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 it's now sharing the wrong thing. Now, there we go.